Shalom to European Union anti-Semitism envoy Katharina von Schnurbein.
Shalom, Yoni.
You're visiting Israel as part of the Special Envoys and Coordinators Combating Anti-Semitism Forum.
So we've been meeting here for the past 2 days together with a global network of anti-Semitism special envoys and coordinators at the invitation of Israel and also hosted by the World Jewish Congress to discuss how we can move the fight against anti-Semitism forward. This is a group that meets regularly in different parts of the world, and we are very happy to see how it has developed in the past 5 years. Many more envoys have been appointed. Now we have even a representative from the UN. We have a representative from the OAS, the Americas. So this, we see that there is a real eagerness and willingness from governments, from international organizations to act and to address this scourge of anti-Semitism. So this has been very encouraging, and it's very meaningful, I think, to us to be here on Yom HaShoah, because it renders home why we do this work and why it is so important. So it's been very fruitful, very good exchanges. We had a few of the special envoys that couldn't come, connected also from the UK, from Germany, from Austria, directly into the meeting, and it's been very meaningful from the US as well.
Many different challenges. What are the main issues that you raised during these few days?
I think the challenges to some extent are, of course, similar. I mean, the internet remains the main challenge in terms of transporting anti-Semitism into our living rooms, and how we address it and how we can cooperate on this is important. The European Commission and the European institutions with the Parliament and the Council agreed over the weekend on legislation that will ensure much more a framework for the platforms to operate in Europe, to ensure that illegal content is taken down, and that we have better redress mechanisms, better transparency on algorithms. This was one aspect, and then with regards to how we can motivate and support a network that we want to create based on an EU strategy on combating anti-Semitism that was adopted in October last year, a network of experts that can, in all EU languages and also in languages that are not EU but transport anti-Semitic content into the EU, can discern anti-Semitic content and either, if necessary, flag it to be taken down, or to address it when it is conspiracy myths, when it is disinformation, fake news, and to ensure that this is properly addressed. So this was one aspect. Then, of course, the very worrying discourses that we see in the context of the war on Ukraine, the terminology that has been used to trivialize the Holocaust, to instrumentalize the Holocaust. We discussed at length in how we can address this new challenges as well. And then we discussed how we can move forward with regards to the fact that, for example, in the EU, member states in March agreed that they will have national strategies by the end of 2022. And how we can, for example, make anti-Semitism more visible through having a better methodology in recording anti-Semitism, better victim support, using the IRA definition, which is a definition that defines the different forms of contemporary anti-Semitism that we see, including Israel-related anti-Semitism and with regards to anti-Semitism hiding behind anti-Zionism. So, all these different aspects. Then also, of course, Holocaust remembrance. We visited Yad Vashem. We also had the honor to be present at the ceremony remembering the Shoah yesterday evening in Yad Vashem, and to see how we can ensure that the memory of the Shoah is being kept in our member states, and that education continues, research continues, documentation continues. So there are many aspects that we discussed together with some experts here from Israel.
Katharina, the numbers keep going up. Anti-Semitism is rising. Do you sometimes feel like giving up?
No, I think we redouble our efforts in the face of the numbers going up, and also in what we have seen, during the pandemic, that very quickly old forms of anti-Semitism were repackaged and conspiracy myths came up, and we know that these conspiracies then can take to the street. The trivialization again of the Holocaust by people who are offered vaccines to, in the face of a pandemic, to compare themselves to victims of the Holocaust by wearing yellow stars of David saying unvaccinated, is something unacceptable, and in fact it's illegal to trivialize the Holocaust across the EU based on EU law, and therefore needs to be prosecuted. So I think what we see, yes, there is an increase of numbers. It partially, I should say, has to do with the fact that also the recording is improved on anti-Semitic incidents, which is a good thing. But we also know that simply, with the pandemic and also now with the war on Ukraine, anti-Semitic content, anti-Semitic language has increased.
And is there any good news in this field?
I think what we see as a positive aspect really is the increased willingness and determination of governments and of international organizations to act. So at the European Commission, we adopted last year in October our first ever strategy on combating anti-Semitism and fostering Jewish life. And the second aspect is really important, because it's really the heart of the strategy, is to ensure that Jews in Europe can live the lives they want to live in accordance with their religious and cultural traditions, that they can flourish. And in fact, the last sentence of the strategy says, Europe can only flourish if its Jewish communities flourish too. And, to really see anti-Semitism is not an issue for the Jews to address. It's an issue for the institutions, for the governments, for the politicians to address. It's our responsibility. It's a threat to the Jews above all, but it is a threat really also to our democracies, to the values, to anything the EU stands for. And therefore we have to act. And the fact that now member states agreed to have by 2022 their own national action plans or strategies also shows the willingness on the national level, and for it to then trickle down to the level of cities to ensure that we can reach the general public, for example, through sports and many other areas. So we see that action against anti-Semitism has significantly increased, but we are of course aware that the challenge and the area that it comes from, in the face of rising populism and rising nationalism and polarization in society, is part of a larger challenge.
Katharina, finally, what is your message to the Jewish people on this day?
I believe that Yom HaShoah and being here in Israel for Yom HaShoah is very meaningful. It really renders home why I do this work personally, why we as an institution are so determined to, and we say that in the strategy, bring an end to anti-Semitism. I know it sounds like utopia, but it is something that we need to strive for and that we are striving for.
EU anti-Semitism envoy Katharina von Schnurbein, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure, Yoni.